I'll kick this off with a bit of a disclaimer. I have never read the Harry Potter books and I don't intend to either. Subsequently, anything bad I say about the film is purely a reflection on the film itself, not the books. I personally feel that's how Harry Potter film reviews should be, and I don't think comments if you don't know what you are talking about cause you haven't read the books are any excuse. Right, that said, this is my review of the latest film in the series, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, Part 1. Oh, did I groan when I realized the final installment was going to be split into two separate films. When I found out this film was to be in two parts, the first thing I did was compare the size of the related book to the others in the series. It is not much longer than the others, which instantly made me think Warner Brothers were cashing in whilst they could. In addition to this, it was announced that Deathly Hallows will be in 3D, the latest scheme to make an extra few pennies from cinema goers. It is fair to say I didn't have high hopes for this production, but my fondness for the previous films pushed those worries to the back of my mind. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, Part 1 picks up the story from where the Half-Blood Prince left it. Dumbledore is dead, Snape has betrayed our heroes, and he who shall not be named is on the verge of coming back with a vengeance. An all-out hunt for Harry Potter is in full swing, and this film basically documents the running and hiding of Harry, Ron and Hermione. Tired of fleeing, the three friends decide to embark on a hunt of their own as they seek out the remaining Horcruxes in hopes of destroying them and thus defeating Voldemort. Thrown into this mix we also see the troubled relationship between Ron and Hermione, as well as the budding romance between Harry and the ever-wooden Ginny. On a side note, I bet Warner Brothers were gutted when J.K. Rowling decided Ginny would feature more and more in the latter films. If only recasting were a possibility. Thankfully, the filmmakers decided against releasing Deathly Hallows in 3D. It was not filmed with the proper technology to do so and would therefore have to have been retrofitted after editing. This tends to make films look darker than they are and usually adds nothing but a little depth perception. Trust me, this film is dark enough as it is without having to lose another 30% of its brightness. With my worries that Deathly Hallows would have been intentionally drawn out to justify a second film, I was pleased to see that I reached the halfway point without an ounce of boredom. There were some scenes where the characters did nothing but stare longingly, but nothing noticeable. Then, with an hour in the bag, the film slowed. And slowed. And slowed. Deathly Hallows quickly descended into walking from one forest to another, with nights spent in a tent being the only thing to break up the walking and sitting. The whole thing reminded me very much of Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, where all anyone did was walk. The only difference is that there's no epic battle scene at the end. I understand that by this point in the story things are looking rather bleak, but other than a few insider jokes that the fanatics lapped up, there is no comic relief to break up the depression. The magic that was ever so present in the previous films just wasn't here. Unfortunately, though I was completely on board with the film throughout the first half, the second just completely ruined it for me. I am certain that this is just an attempt to make as much money as possible since there will be no more films after this one, but I feel a lot of people will be disappointed. Ultimately, it doesn't matter if I recommend seeing this film or not, since we are so far into the series that you will already know if it interests you. If there are any unsure parties out there, I'd say read the spoilers and wait for Part 2, which looks to have a lot more action and adventure in it. Deathly Hallows Part 1 isn't an awful film, just a boring one, and certainly has no replay value after the first viewing. I would have much preferred a 3-hour-long single film than the collective 4-hour installment with an hour of stalling that we got.